Welcome back to Squawk Box. Bud Light, dethroned as America's top-selling beer, lost that crown in the wake of its controversial partnership with trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney, prompting a boycott from conservative critics since posting the ad on Instagram. Shares of its parent company, AB InBev, have fallen more than 12% as of yesterday's close. It's not the only company, though, that is facing a big backlash these days from consumers. Target also coming under a lot of fire for its Pride merchandise, including tuck-friendly swimsuits, and stock has fallen around 12% since the retailer pulled some LGBT-branded merchandise, citing employees' sense of safety amid the backlash. Joining us right now to discuss the war over, I don't know, we're going to say woke. I think we're going to talk about and its impact on the bottom line. Brad Lander is here. He is a New York City comptroller. Jimmy Patronis says Florida's CFO. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Yeah, you're right here. So
Good morning.
I'm going to start. I'm going to start with you. I think there were a lot of companies, including Bud Light and Target, who thought they were doing the right thing, both for their consumers or for the country or just more broadly. And here they are in this place now where there has been such a remarkable backlash from consumers, and it's been organic. And I wonder, as somebody who's been in a place where you've pushed for a lot of social progressive issues, how you now feel about all of this.
Well, look, you would expect that broadening your appeal, trying to appeal to a wide array of people, to say to LGBTQ folks, you're welcome here, would indeed broaden your customer base.
But
and I think that's the vision of America that we want to have. That's what you might think, except that you also have a fiduciary duty to your pensioners. And here we are in a situation where that may not be true, what you just said. I mean, well, look, pension investing is different from selling customer goods. My job is a long-term one. A pension fiduciary is thinking about decades to come because teachers and cops and firefighters are going to be retiring. And 50, 60, 70 years from now, I've got to pay their pension obligation. So what that means to me is take a long-term strategy, not a short-term one. That's what I'm trying to do. And do you think then this is are you saying this is a long-term issue or is it a blip in American culture? Boy, I hope it's a blip, but that's a different set of questions. When I say long-term risks, I'm thinking about what the long-term risks to the pension portfolio are. Right. Jimmy?
Good morning.
Good morning. I imagine you're on the other side of this than where Brad stands right now. You have companies, as I said, I think they did it with, at least with, I think, were good intentions. I mean, I don't think they were trying to create controversy. And here they are in what they imagine or think is a pickle. And they're getting pressure now, not just from consumers, but the other piece of it is they're getting pressure from the investment community.
Sure. So here's the way I look at it. I grew up in the restaurant business for 30 years. My family's still in it. I can't ever divorce myself from a passion that I grew up in. I was at the restaurant the other day. I was talking to my brothers and we were just talking shop and look, and we feed everybody. I'm in the customer service business. Everybody's a customer. But I know this, where Bud Light was our #1 selling beer in the restaurant. We've got a big place, about 800 seats. In a week, we sold about 6 servings. So again, there's no demand for it. The customers are walking away from it. And I know I remember my college roommate had told me, he said, Jimmy, says, never make a bad grade when you're in college because you'll be digging yourself out of the whole rest of the time you're there. And this is what's happened. InBev and Budweiser, they made a bad grade. They're digging themselves out of a hole right now, and it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful for a long time. They treated their customers like they were idiots. They forgot who their customer was. And at the end of the day, I'm a trustee over pensions. And all I know is if you create the resources that takes care of that retired firefighter that left New York and decided to settle in the villages because they left the tax hellhole that's up in that state, this is where they need to have peace of mind that the retirement funds are there. Again, poor decision by management. Heads should roll. I mean, I tell you, there's absolutely zero excuse at what InBev did because of the ripple effect. And you know what? The last thing, Andrew, that they're not talking about, I look at my poor route driver. These route drivers work for family-owned distributorships, okay? And they'll be committed to that company for 20 years. But now their #1 product, when they make that store delivery, is no longer selling. And they're having trouble pivoting that customer into something else, because what's happening with Modelo, Coors Light, Miller Lite, and the others that are taking over that marketplace.
So would you advocate, Brad, for heads to roll?
At InBev, I guess, look, if the idea is if you got a bad grade in college, you're not going to do well. Seems to me a lot of folks are graduating right now that got bad grades in college. They're going to see a lot of thriving. What I don't understand is why you would go attacking Disney, attacking one of your largest employers in your state. The idea that politicizing the economy is a good idea. I think Florida is showing that it's not true. And all I can say is New York is looking beautiful this morning. Our economy is doing well. Crime is lower here than it is in Florida. And I'll take the decisions that we're making
a lot of people would say
to welcome and include
politicizing
people.
The economy started with, this is the response to the politicization.
I haven't attacked the biggest employer in my state.
What I'm saying, though. They both, depending on what you believe, both sides seem to want to use the economy to further cultural. But we have a culture war.
I really disagree with that. What I'm trying to do is...
You don't think that ESG or a lot of these things...
Taking climate risk seriously because it presents long-term risks to the portfolio is real. And I guess what I would ask CFO DeSantis is, what's a bigger threat to the long-term thriving of the economy and the pension funds? Is it fossil fuels, rising seas and temperatures?
You need to talk to India and China
is it
then.
Mickey Mouse?
Okay. Talk to China and India.
Yeah.
Here's my question for the CFO.
Exactly.
How many insurers have gone belly up in Florida in just the last 2 years?
That's not... Okay.
So here's what
Do you know
we
the answer?
had.
Because the answer is 10. 10 insurance companies have gone belly up in Florida because climate risk is
Hurricane
financial
Andrew
risk.
was in 1970.
Yeah, but we had a litigation environment.
Long before...
But then why have the 10 insurance companies...
Let's let Jimmy respond.
Okay.
Yeah, look, so we had to have 2 special sessions of our legislature last year to close the legal loopholes that were existing in Florida statute. So Florida generated 7% of all insurance claims nationwide, but we generated 70% of all litigation. We were a judicial hellhole for the whole United States. We had loopholes in law firms that were printing lawsuits off Xerox machines, and it wasn't about servicing the consumer. It was about suing and settling and getting a threat of going to court to get a settlement. So we closed those loopholes. But and let me tell you, I'm going to finish a second. So, when I talked to Lloyd's in London, when I talked to JP Morgan, when I talked to Chubb, all of them told me, Jimmy, we can model for climate change in your state. We cannot model for the litigation environment you've got. These are why these companies said they threw the towel in and said, you know what, I'm going to move my capital where it can be protected.
I don't want to go down the insurance rabbit hole. I have 2 other quick questions, one for Jimmy and one for Brad. Jimmy, my question to you actually is around Disney, which is as somebody who's a fiduciary who cares about your state, who cares about the economics of your state and the economics, I would imagine, of Disney, its ability to pay taxes, the benefits that it provides to all the employees at Disney. Why do the social issues, if you will, matter to you at all, and should they?
So Disney, you got to remember, we have term limits in Florida, and the legislature over 50 years ago created what's called a special district.
No,
it turned Disney into its own city.
Jimmy, it's also clear that the governor did this as direct retribution. It's on tape. He said it over and over again. You may disagree with the policy that was put in place 50 years ago. We could debate that actually on its merits. The problem is nobody's debating on its merits, in part because what created this conundrum or debate right now was something very different, which was the governor saying something and very specific about how unhappy he was about the social policies at that company.
I think people that have carve-outs and start to bring attention to themselves stand a chance of losing their carve-outs. And this is exactly what Disney did. They engaged politically. They brought attention to the fact they had a carve-out because people started inquiring. So again, this was, whether you want to say Governor DeSantis retaliated on them on the position they took after the bill was signed, we're going to finger point on that all day long. But Disney doesn't have a DeSantis problem. Disney's got a Disney problem, okay? They should not have engaged the way they should have because they brought attention that I've got special privileges that nobody else in the state has. That creates jealousy, and that becomes a need for fairness.